Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by The Home Depot. How doers get more done.
From installing a smart garage door opener, to installing a bathroom faucet, to removing a tree, The Home Depot believes you can do anything, especially the things we have how-to guides for. Visit HomeDepot.com for thousands of tips, workshops, and ideas for projects, big and small. The Home Depot app, how doers get more done.
This week, we help a homeowner out with a lot of cracks they have in their front porch concrete. There are ways to make it look a lot better. Also, we cover a number of painting questions, including the feasibility of painting an existing bathtub, how to paint existing wood paneling, how to hire a painter if you decide not to do it yourself, and really improving the look of exterior bricks by whitewashing it. Also, of course, we got a simple solution for you.
All right, Danny, this is a tip on how to easily store lawn and garden tools. I'm talking about long-handled tools that are often difficult to store. Shovels, rakes, that kind of thing. And it takes literally, I would say, maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds to set this up to store your tools.
Intriguing. That won't take long. You have plenty of time to go fishing today.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get started here.
Here we are, Danny, in the middle of April, and I think as the weather gets warmer, we're going to get more and more calls about people working on the outside of their house. So if you have a question about your home or yard, or even if you're still working inside, as I am, get in touch with us. We'll see if we can help you out today.
One situation that we see so often, Joe, is let's say you have a home and maybe it's somewhat original to how it was built.
Right.
And, the builder really doesn't give you much room to enjoy the outside. I saw a patio the other day that was 6 foot wide and 8 feet long. Now throw two chairs out there and you're done. That's pretty much it. No chance of putting a table or anything else like that. And I think that's one of the mistakes a lot of homeowners make. They simply do not really make it big enough, because by the time you put, a chair and tables and maybe a little, little side table here and that kind of thing, you've filled it up. So I think that's one of the things that we can recommend people, that when you're planning those spaces, plan to make it adequately sized to where you can grow a little bit out there.
Too often the builder obviously just puts the bare minimum into the house, because the bigger he makes the patio or the deck, the more you have to pay for the house. So they're offering you something. But I've even seen homes where they have a sliding patio door or a French door leading out onto what would be a deck, but there's no deck. There's just the ledger. They literally just put the ledger, which is the horizontal board that you fasten to the house, and then you build a deck off of it, but there's no deck. So I guess it's like, well, it's nice that they put in the sliding doors and they put in the ledger, but it's really doesn't do me what's good. So it sort of depends on, I guess, how much you want to pay for the house, and then you could build the deck, or in this case, the patio. And you have a small patio. A lot of people think, oh, now I have to tear up this whole patio, and you don't often have to do that. Sometimes you can build onto it, you can build over it. So depending on the situation, and we get homeowners calling us to the radio show all the time saying, I have this little patio. What can I do with it?
Well, there's a number of times that we've taken those patios, and so many times the small concrete areas you have behind the house will be recessed down about 3.5 inches coming out of that door.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you can use a paver that's only 1.5 inches and glue it straight down to that surface. It's going to improve the look of it considerably, but then go ahead and use those pavers to expand it out, maybe even change the shape of it a little bit to add a little interest in that. And when you get outside the area where you're not gluing it down to the slab, then you can put down the paver base, pack it down, put the pavers on there, and you can have any size patio you want. And one of the advantages I've always thought about on the pavers is, you can kind of let it grow as your budget and time allows it to grow.
Right.
As, you can make the 10 by 12 and have a great little patio area, and later on add another 10 by 12 to it if you wish, as you grow out there. Because once you get a nice, comfortable patio, maybe you get it with the outside speakers, maybe you got a little water feature there, you're going to end up spending as absolute much time as you can out there. So to be able to expand it and not have that color difference, that's a problem with concrete. You pour concrete,
Right. Yep.
I don't care if you pour it next week, is going to be a different shade and a different color that you're going to have on it.
Right. And the other thing I've seen people do, which is really smart and pretty affordable, is they'll put down the pavers, whether it's across a concrete patio or just on the paver base starting new. And then they continue it, but not as a paver patio, but as a walkway or, like kind of like it goes around the house, a beautifully curved walkway, even if it's only 2 or 3 feet wide. Maybe it goes around the garage to the front of the house and meets up with the driveway, or maybe it goes out to a shed or someplace else, some walking area where instead of you're just walking on wet grass or mud or wearing out, someplace where there's foot traffic ordinarily. And that's a affordable and really durable way to put something down that, first of all, increases the look of the hardscaping area of your yard. It looks great. You can plant flowers along the border or whatever. But again, if you have any kind of place where you have erosion or soggy yard, this is a great way to make that yard a lot more usable.
Hey, I'll tell you something that we did just last week that'll be coming up on one of our episodes of the Today's Homeowner television show, is we did have one of those small patios, and it was really a very nice looking one, had a nice tile down on it. But the problem with the tile had been down about 8 or 9 years, almost impossible for us to match that to expand it. So you know how the well-known rule in a lot of different projects that you do, if you can't match it, then go with something completely different looking.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what we did. We actually dug down just a couple inches, and we put the paver base down. You can buy this paver base.
Which is just crushed stone, by the way, in case you're not familiar.
Which is nothing but, recycled crushed stone, crushed concrete. Most of the time it's a bit of a gray or light gray kind of coloring to it. Well, we put that down and we raked it out real nice. Then we took bags of pea gravel and sprinkled pea gravel over the top of it and coated it. Then we used our hand tamp and tamped it down solid, and it just locked together. It had this really cool look to it.
Right.
It was very inviting going from the existing patio out there, and it was packed down sufficiently just by using a small hand tamp. Didn't even have to use a motorized tamp. But it was just perfect to put the table. They had we brought in a table and 4 chairs and plants, and even built a little bench over to the side. Chelsea came up with this great idea for a little casual bench that had a plant shelf on the back side of it that was all incorporated together. So that's another way. And you're talking about very do-it-yourself friendly, very inexpensive. And you know what? Later on, if these homeowners decide to put pavers down, well, they're already ready to go with the paver base all in place and good, a really good situation, very attractive.
And as you said, it's super affordable. And if one area gets a lot of water and it starts sinking down, it's, how much it can cost? Another $20. Pour out more pea gravel, tamp it down, and you're all set. And speaking of working out on outdoor projects, Danny, you had mentioned, I think it was just last week, you're heading up to your daughter Emily's house to lay some sod. How did that go?
Oh, my back.
Come on.
Now, you would think 4.5 pallets of sod. That doesn't sound that bad.
Not too much, yeah.
But, it was, it's quite a bit of work, but I'm telling you, nothing more gratifying than doing that. We had a rototiller, so we were able to rototill up all of the lawn.
Right.
And, this lawn on the back of our little townhouse was about 25 by 90.
Okay.
So we just started at the house and did a little rototilling, put in a few amendments to improve the soil a little bit, and then put the sod down, green side up, and we worked our way right out of the back gate by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. All of us were very tired, but very, very satisfied. And it just really turned out great. And nothing better than seeing that your daughter's big smile on her face and having that bit of pride that comes along with getting a project done like that at your house. It really was cool.
Now you got to buy her a lawnmower.
Well, she does have the lawnmower.
Oh, good.
Got the lawnmower before she got the grass. So that's thinking ahead right there.
Yeah.
So she's in good shape and keeping it watered, and so hopefully it'll grow and do very, very well. But this is a great time of the year before it gets really, really hot to think about some of those type of projects that you can really enjoy as it grows and have that nice established yard. So good way to go on that. Right now we're going to go with Cindy and see if we can help Cindy with maybe an issue she has at her house. Cindy, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us all about this front porch you're pondering.
Okay, we've been living in our house about 31 years now, and I've got some cracks in my front porch, and I just want to get them fixed. We recently had some gutters put up, and I know that won't be an issue anymore, but I just want to fix my front porch to make it look better.
Yeah, we see this a lot, and we've dealt with this many, many times. And, it's just concrete is going to crack no matter what you do. And in commercial situations and in some residential situations, they have control joints. So they'll have a little joint that they strike in the concrete that basically is to, let's say, encourage, it's kind of like, okay, I recognize it's going to crack here, don't crack everywhere else. And so that's kind of what happens with that. But so often on front porches particularly, and I'm looking at a picture of your house right now, and, so many times the crack will be right in the front door. Here I can see that you have it in several places, but the good news is this does not appear like there's any settling that's taking place. This is just strictly expansion and contraction, so that probably during the wintertime, these cracks might be a little bigger than they are during the summertime. It's amazing how concrete will move like this. The thing is, if you do have some blowing rain and you get water in there, there is a chance for the water to penetrate down through the slab, get under to the soil underneath, and kind of make it a little spongy, and there might end up being some settling. So it is a good idea to go ahead and correct them. I'll tell you what you should do. You should go to the Quikrete website and look at the videos on recap. Now, also at todayshomeowner.com, we have a number of videos that we've done that we address this exact same thing. And it really does work very, very well. It's basically just a light coating that you're putting over the existing concrete, and it completely seals up the cracks. And unless there's a lot of movement, it'll keep them from coming back. So it's just like putting a whole new surface on that concrete. And again, it's recap. Pretty amazing stuff. I think that'll do just what you need, Cindy.
Okay, great. And will that be for the whole porch or just where the cracks are?
Yeah, you'll want to do the whole porch. And normally what I do is I mix up one small batch, and then I just put a thin layer, like 3 or 4 inches wide, over the existing cracks and let that dry. It doesn't take just a few hours for it to dry. Then I put a light coating over the whole thing. And then just as it's starting to dry up a little bit, then it would be good for you to use a broom, a traditional broom, and just pull it over the damp coating, and that'll provide just a little bit what we call a broom finish, and that'll provide you a little traction so that porch is not, slippery when you, your family, or your friends come up to that front porch.
Okay, so will it be just like concrete color when it's done?
Exactly, yes. It's just a light gray color, and then after it dries a while, if you decide you want to stain it or, with concrete stain, you can do that. But I would do this. I would do that, take a look at it, and I think you'll be so pleased with it being, it'll look just like you poured a brand new slab.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great.
Okay, well, we'll get to work on it. Just read the instructions real well, because it has a particular way that you have to mix it and then let it sit for just a few minutes and then mix it again. So it's very easy, and just measure out the water that you have in it. I've used it many, many times. It's always been a success.
I appreciate it so much.
Certainly no problem at all, Cindy. Thanks so much for being with us here on Today's Homeowner Radio, and have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, Joe, so many times that is the solution to those type of problems like that. Is just the good, and we can tell from the photos that the one side of the crack is level with the other side of the crack.
Yep.
We know that if that is a little bit of a difference, then it's a whole different approach to the problem cracks like that.
Yeah, often, if there's a separation where there's a crack and one side's higher than the other, that means the crack goes all the way through the slab, all the way through the patio. And every concrete contractor I've ever spoken with has said there's nothing you can do to repair that. I don't care about jacking it up or what, you have to basically pull it out. Thankfully for Cindy, she just has cracks. And the reason, we usually recommend recap, as to refinish the whole patio is because you can patch these. There's different patching materials, but they're going to be so obvious. You're going to see where the cracks were. You won't be able to see the cracks, but you will be able to see the patch. And this is on the front of her house. She's going to see it every time she comes in and out of the house. So yeah, putting on a resurfacer like recap is definitely a better solution.
There you go. A lot of different options. When you have concrete, you don't have to put up with it being ugly. There's a lot of ways that you can dress it up. Let's get right to the emails. Again, if you'd like to send us one, todayshomeowner.com/ask. This came from Treva in Tallahassee, Florida. How can I change the color of the brick on the outside of my home? I heard it can be whitewashed or something like that. Do you know how this is done? Oh boy, I'll tell you, it is happening everywhere. So many people are whitewashing or lime washing the outside of their homes. it's a trend, a strong trend, and for many houses it can make a dramatic difference, because brick has a purpose, but some brick just looks so out of date. I kind of see some of these bricks sometimes, Joe, that I almost want to say it has a yellow kind of a look to it and so forth. And maybe that was cool back in 1974, but it just doesn't have that crisp, clean look that so many people are looking for. But the problem a lot of people, as you know, Joe, that will do, they'll just go with latex paint. They'll just paint it on there.
Can't do that, right?
You're sealing up the outside pores of that brick, and brick is designed to breathe. So I'm sure down the road a little bit here, we're going to find some of those problems where people didn't realize that. And Trevor, what we've done in the past and what we found, and we've done this on, I think, 3 houses now so far, is a coating called Roma Bio. It's ROMABIO. And it's a coating, amazingly easy to use. You can use a sprayer, a roller, or paintbrush, whatever you want. All you simply do is pressure wash the exterior of the house because you want it nice and clean. It doesn't even have to dry all the way. Just let it dry some. Then you apply this, 1 coat, and you're done. We did an entire house, Joe. I guess the house was probably 2,500 square feet.
Right.
We did the whole entire thing in just 1 day.
It's amazing, yeah.
And we had a little bit of time ahead of the day before doing a little bit of prep and so forth.
Right.
But then we did a sprayer, and then the homeowner came back and removed most of the coating on random bricks.
Right, so it looks kind of antique feel.
That old world. Yeah, that old world look.
That's great looking.
And, I just couldn't believe it at the end. We had a traffic jam in front of this place with people stopping, saying, "What did you do?" You know?
Maybe they thought you painted the house the wrong color because you painted it, and she was out there wiping the paint off. Like, what happened? Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it did look a little, and that's another thing. You have about, 3 to 4 hours that you can remove as much or a little of this material so that you get just that look and just that level of finish that you want. And you can go to todayshomeowner.com and check out our videos on whitewashing homes. We also have a number of them about lime washing fireplace faces if you're looking to do something similar for that interior brick as well. But I think it's a very viable thing, and most important, it allows the bricks to breathe so that you don't end up with a excessive moisture problem later on.
Yeah, it's called a mineral paint, in case anybody wanted to look it up, which is what allows it to breathe. But it does transform the house. I think a lot of times, if you're in a neighborhood with a brick house, often a lot of the houses or all the houses in your neighborhood are built with the same brick, and maybe you just want it to look a little different, so people do go and paint it. But if you're going to paint it, just like if you're painting anything else, you have to make sure to use the right product. And for exterior brick, mineral paint is the way to go.
And I think emphasizing reading instructions is kind of contrary to what most people think us men do, right, Joe?
Well, it is.
We have to stand up for the men out there that do read instructions, because somebody started a rumor that we don't read instructions, that we just, you know what you're doing, just go on and do it. Huh?
Well, we read them after we figure out whatever we've been doing isn't working. But I must say, since we've been on the radio and we're trying to be very conscientious about telling listeners to read instructions, I've been reading them. It's like I'm taking my own advice, finally.
Today's Homeowner is brought to you by The Home Depot. How doers get more done.
It's time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by The Home Depot. How doers get more done. The question for most homeowners is not if they need a ladder, it's how many ladders do they need. A short step ladder, a tall A-frame ladder, or a tall extension ladder? Well, Gorilla Ladders made the answer yes with their new 18-foot MPXA aluminum multi-purpose ladder, because it can function as all of those and a whole lot more. Because it's aluminum, it's lighter than most multi-purpose ladders, but still has a 300-pound rating. Now, you can easily adjust the height with one hand thanks to the user-friendly speed locks, which operate with a single quarter turn in either direction. And the extra-large, heavy-duty hinges provide more strength with less flex and sway for safer climbing. Plus, like most really good multi-purpose ladders, it can be used in a variety of different ways in situations like maybe you're working in a stairway or as a base for some type of scaffolding. So no matter what you're doing in and around your home, you can find out more about the Gorilla 18-foot multi-purpose ladder by logging on to HomeDepot.com. And I certainly like that, Joe, about it being lighter because
Right, yeah.
I remember I bought one of the very first multi-purpose ladders, and I remember writing a check for $419.
Wow.
I thought, man, this thing doesn't even have wheels for me to drive it into the job site. But I mean, I used it, but and probably built up my shoulders pretty good bit by lugging this thing around.
Yeah.
But man, they were so heavy, it just didn't make sense. So I'm glad to see Gorilla Ladders recognizing that and making things a little bit lighter without sacrificing any of the strength.
Right. And the biggest change they've made in these new generation ladders is the mechanism for opening it and closing it. Because before, the locking mechanisms were almost impossible to operate. So I'm glad they fixed that.
I remember using that ladder one time, and I had it fully extended vertically straight up.
Right.
And I was about to pull the little pins out so that it would drop down. And the homeowner that we were working with opened the door and said something to me just as I was pulling that.
Right.
I turned to look at her, and that exact moment, this ladder came straight down and landed on my little bitty toe. Now, my little bitty toe is only about 3/4 of an inch long, like that. Well,
how long is it now?
It is quite flat, and but it completely crushed all the bones in it. And then, of course, I was then faced with having to curtail what I was thinking of saying. And but I remember I went to the doctor. There's nothing you can do. They tape it to the next toe, and they say, "Good luck." Why did you do that? They'll ask you that. Why did you do that? Well, if I had it all over to do again, I would not do that. But so anyway, let's get back to today's homeowner hotline, 800-946-4420. We're going to take a couple of those calls right now.
Hi, guys. I love listening to you guys on Saturdays while I'm delivering mail. My question is, what do you think about painting a bathtub? If you think it's a good idea, what brand would you recommend? I would really not want to try and get rid of the tub that's in my bathroom at the moment. It is old and very heavy, and I was hoping that I could paint it. Thank you.
Well, I've certainly seen a lot of homeowners have the bathtubs painted, and I know a couple people that have tackled that themselves. Each of the ones that have tackled it themselves on a do-it-yourself kit, it turned out okay. But they certainly wish they had hired it done, because the labor that's involved in prepping that tub is unbelievable. I know my friend Brad that works here in the office has been a longtime employee of ours and is very good do-it-yourselfer. Boy, he almost threw in the towel on that one, because it does require a lot. What's your opinion on that, Joe? Because there are a lot of services that are out there that come in and very quickly and very professionally can coat it in a professional approach versus a do-it-yourself approach, which may not be quite as as durable as the professionals do. But what's your thoughts on the different approaches?
Yeah, I guess you have three options, right? Not including removing the tub and replacing it. So we're talking about with how to refinish an existing tub. There are companies that make, I think Rust-Oleum makes a product called a tub and tile refinishing kit, and it's basically an epoxy acrylic finish. But as Danny mentioned, the prep is key to get this epoxy acrylic to stick, and very noxious fumes. You have to use ventilation, and you probably should wear a respirator of some sort. So that's one way to go. There are companies that will come in and refinish the tub for you, and then there's a company like Bath Fitters that they actually make a mold that goes right over the old tub, and it basically is a brand new surface. And the price goes up accordingly. So, I mean, I often will say, well, you might as well try the DIY kit yourself, and if it doesn't work, then you can hire someone to come in and refinish it. But then they have to strip off what you already did. So I guess in this case, if she's going to be in the house a while, I think I might take the middle option and just pay someone to come in. It'd be less expensive than a bath fitter option, I think. Just let them refinish it for you and stay out of the house for the day, and it'll be done.
Yeah, I think so too, because I don't believe they quite have that kit, developed like it should. I actually overheard someone talking recently that I guess they're into this flipping homes, which I'm so tired of hearing people talk about that, because a lot of people are involved in that have no business of being involved in that, especially this person I overheard talking about that they had just dropped by the home center and picked up 3 cans of appliance spray, and that they were taping off the tub and spraying it with regular spray paint. And they said, man, it just looks so good, it looks almost brand new.
Right.
Well, come on. How long could that possibly last? What, maybe two showers or whatever.
Right,
And,
yeah.
So that's not a good way of doing it. Even if you're trying to sell the house, that's even more reason to make sure that it does stay good. But I agree with you, Joe. Try to go with a professional on refinishing that. They know exactly what they're doing. Let's grab another call about dark wood paneling.
Hello. What does a person do in order to paint dark wood paneling? How do you prepare it, and what kind of finish do you put on? Because we want to make it neutral color, which is not going to be absorbent as far as grease and stuff, and washable. Thank you. Goodbye.
I have done that many a time. We call them the dark den of the 70s. You know, that was so popular to have that center den. You fed right out into the patio out back. You got the fireplace on one side. Often you'd have the entryway into the kitchen or the dining room on the other. But I'll tell you, and a lot of times there was a lot of woodwork, very nice, skillfully installed woodwork in these particular dens and living rooms. But after a while, you just get a little old. That gets a little old, and you want to kind of brighten it up a little bit. Well, first of all, we have a number of projects, step by step, that we've done on todayshomeowner.com that'll guide you right through what you need to do. But essentially, it's much like painting kitchen cabinets. First thing you want to do, you mentioned the grease here, is to get a degreaser and really clean the surface of all of the wood very, very well. That's the first thing. A little bit of light sanding is going to knock that gloss off of the wood so that it will accept a primer. That's the next step. Get a really good bonding primer and apply it with a really good brush, just a thin coat. Allow it to dry, whatever the manufacturers recommend. Then I would come back with 2 coats of an acrylic latex and go ahead and step up to an eggshell finish. That will give you the washability and the durability you want. I'll tell you though, Joe, we've never done one of these that it wasn't just an amazing transformation. And even though you have a number of steps to go through, and it can be a little labor intensive, man, it is well worth it when you do it right, to where, because you want that just like you want with kitchen cabinets, you want that finish to be very durable and washable. But man, it'll brighten up that room and make it look like heck, 2022, right, overnight.
Right. And suddenly you'll think that the lights in the room got brighter.
That's right, sure.
It's not like someone switched the bulbs out and put in 100-watt bulbs instead of 40-watt. It's just that it's reflecting light now instead of the light being absorbed by that dark paneling.
Exactly. One thing we like to do here at Today's Homeowner Radio is when we keep getting questions about one particular subject, we like to really go to work and put together a lot of great information in one place. And we've done that for metal roofing. It's something that's one of the most popular roofing styles these days for all the right reasons. And we put together all kinds of articles like metal roofing buyer's guide and visualizer so that you can actually take a picture of your house and then put different types of metal roofing on that picture, and you can see exactly what your house will look like once you replace your roof. And also we go into why metal is one of the better options for re-roofing your home, why the strength and the energy efficiency is such a benefit on that. And also we've got a really cool story about Hurricane Ida that was no match for this Louisiana couple's metal roof. Very special couple, and boy, they had their timing just right in getting the roof on just before the hurricane hit, and they're glad they did. So here's all you have to do is go to todayshomeowner.com/metal roofing. That's todayshomeowner.com/metal roofing. It's just a subsection that we just put together on todayshomeowner.com, brought to you by our friends at Metal Roofing Alliance. So any questions that you may have, just let us know. We want to make sure you get all the latest information on metal roofing. Right now we're going to head to Texas. Sue's on the line. Sue, it sounds like you're getting ready for a little painting. Tell us about it.
Yes, it's time for me to face the music. Something I've been procrastinating because I feel like I really don't know what I need to know to make good choices.
Okay, all right. And you're painting outside of the home?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been about 15 years
since
it's been painted. It's one story.
Okay.
But living in an area with such heavy sun, I know that certain paints are better in different climates, and that's part of my dilemma.
And what's the surface on the outside of your home?
Most of the wood parts are hardy plank.
Oh, good. Good. Well, that's why you've been able to go 15 years then, because
Yes.
the fiber cement material like that, boy, that holds paint so well and stands up to, because there's a lot of harsh weather out in Texas there with all of the sun and the heat and so forth. Well, finding that right painter can be done, and there's several different ways I would recommend that you go about it. First of all of your friends and neighbors and acquaintances, just ask around anybody that's had some painting done recently. That's one of the best ways to find someone that really paints, that does a good job. And it's also worthwhile, getting in the car and going over and looking at the job that they did, because someone may say, boy, they did a great job, and you get over and look at it and go, well, that's not as good a job as I'm expecting, or the level that I'm expecting. Another one is to look at some of the paint stores that you see the painters buying their materials at. There's usually the little paint-only type stores around. They may be different branded, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, those kind. And maybe call them and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll generally be able to recommend someone that they've heard a lot of feedback from and that they've done a lot of work with, and that you can get a few names there. And then what I would recommend is, first of all, of course, get everything in writing. And what you want to make sure is they spell it out for you of exactly what they're going to do. They're going to wash the surface, any caulking that's necessary, and then how many coats of paint and the brand of paint that they're going to use will be very, very important, because there's a big fluctuation in the cost of paint, and you want to make sure that they're specifying exactly what type of paint that they're going to use. And I always think of the middle of the road. I wouldn't take the cheapest, nor would I take the highest price. That middle of the road seems to always work pretty well.
Oh, good. Good suggestion. I didn't think of it that way.
But you just want to ask the questions. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings by asking questions. And it's also pretty important to make sure that they do have the proper insurance. You don't want someone out there falling off a ladder and then expecting you to take care of all of the medical bills there. So, and I can tell you from many, many years of paying insurance premiums, if someone asks me, do I have insurance, I'm proud to show them that certificate that I do have insurance, because it's just a good peace of mind. And there's thousands of scenarios where someone has fallen off a ladder, gotten hurt, and expected that homeowner to take care of it. You don't want to be one of those statistics, and it's well worth it to have that. But getting those recommendations, that's where you need to make sure you spend the time to where you're very comfortable with that person coming out. And you want to make sure you're able to get in contact with them very easily. And when they're talking to you, you just want to feel comfortable that they're going to do the right job.
Excellent suggestions. Some of these I kind of had in the back of my mind, but I hadn't thought about going to the paint stores, because there is a neighborhood paint store where I buy all my paint that I paint inside the house with.
Well, they know who does a good job and who doesn't, and who pays their bills and who buys the right kind of paint. So it's a pretty good little resource to find the right person to work at your house.
I like that idea. Thanks.
Good. Well, Sue, best of luck on that. The one thing that's the hardest that you've got to face is choosing a color. That is the hardest. That's the hardest thing to figure out. You can go in there and say, I know the exact color yellow I want. And then all of a sudden there's 100 colors of yellow that's staring at you. So best of luck. We can't hardly help you on that very much, but
okay.
But best of luck on getting it, and I hope everything turns out perfectly for you.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking my question. I really appreciate it, and you've been a big help.
Okay, our pleasure, Sue. Have a great weekend. We'll talk with you again, I'm sure. That is one of the things, and I mean, that's perfect for someone to stop and think about what's the best route for me.
Right.
And it's the same way, Joe, whether you're hiring a painter or anybody to do work around the house. A lot of the things that we've just mentioned, it's the same thing with otherwise, but people get in a hurry. And one thing I didn't mention to Sue that we share with people a lot, if someone's trying to be a little too much pressure on you,
right,
turn away. I mean, if they're offering you a special price, if they're saying, hey, I got some leftover paint here, be glad to use that, whatever, all of those things are red flags to run away.
Right, and you want to make sure that within the scope of work, the way it's worded on the contract, it's not only about the painting, but as Danny said, you want details of the prep work, because that's almost more important than applying the paint. And also you want an estimated work schedule, an approximate start date and completion date. And besides the color of the paint for the body of the house, the trim is typically painted a different color, so she's going to have to find two different paint colors, I suspect. So all that should be in the contract. And then, of course, the payment schedule, too. Most contractors are going to want a portion up front, and you never, ever pay 100% up front. I don't care what the contractor's doing, because what's the incentive to come back?
That's right,
So
yeah.
usually it's like maybe you pay a third up front and then a third when it's almost done, and then once they're done and you've inspected the job, maybe the final third, something like that. And that's reasonable, I think, for any contractor.
It's all about the comfort level. Ask enough questions to where you're feeling comfortable with that person will come in, and then checking the references. Then you can have a good, successful project by letting someone else take care of it. Hey, let's go to our emails here, our podcast question of the week. And if you'd like to send us a question, we'd love to get it. All you have to do is go to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. This came in from Craig in Rye, New York. Hi, Danny. I need to make a few repairs to our wooden deck. I'm most concerned about a couple of the vertical 4x4 posts that are starting to rot at the bottom where they go down into the concrete. Is there a way to repair the post, or do I need to replace them completely? I hope not. It's a second-story deck. Thanks in advance. Boy, as soon as I read that, I thought about 4x4s and second-story deck.
I see that all the time. Yeah.
That's a little scary to me. I would certainly think a 6x6 would give you a little more stability there. But, this is one of the things, Joe, we talk about it a lot, is how over the years people have stopped putting the posts down in the concrete.
Exactly.
That used to be what we always did, is
Sure.
you dug your hole, you put your post in there, you poured the concrete and rolled right along. But then they realized, so many times when you have wood in contact with concrete, even if it's pressure treated, it stays wet so much because of the nature of concrete that it rots off. I wonder here if it might not be too late to cut this off and actually put a metal saddle in there, depending on the level of deterioration. But a little metal saddle like that basically screws down to the concrete, and then you position the post within that little U-shaped saddle,
Right.
and you screw it all together or bolt it all together. And essentially that's keeping that wood up off the concrete, but still utilizing the foundation properties of the concrete to support the deck. I guess it's just going to depend on how far along that 4x4 is rotted.
Yeah, and that, of course, that's the reason it always rots at the bottom, right? Because it's sitting in that wet concrete, and the concrete is absorbing water, and it rots it out. Pressure-treated wood or not, it's going to rot it out. The first thing he has to do, of course, is temporarily support this deck, because they're going to be cutting these out. I mean, I wouldn't cut one and leave the other ones in place. I mean, you have to really support the corners of these decks, or however, with temporary posts and a beam up at top, so because you're going to be cutting these out. And I'm seeing, once you get to that point, maybe it's easier to cut the whole post out. But I've often seen them where they just scab in a new, meaning connect a shorter piece of fresh wood to the existing post. They cut out maybe the bottom 2 or 3 feet. So you hit nice solid wood, and you put a little half lap joint, and you bolt them together. But yeah, so now what do we do at the bottom? Well, we're certainly not going to set it right on the concrete. I would build it up. I would either pour a little concrete pad, a little column rather, right on top, then put the metal anchor, because you want to get it up off, because if you just put it right back on the ground, or on the patio in this case, whatever this is, I mean, you're going to have essentially the same problem. It'll be a little easier to repair it next time, but you have the same problem. So I'd build it up. He's in Rye, New York, which is just north of the city, so I'm sure they get plenty of snow and rain and everything else. So if you can build it up even a foot, get it up out of the snow and have it not sitting in the puddles or anything, I think that's what I would probably do. Repair one at a time, and then I think you'd be all set for many more years to come.
There you go, Craig. And like so many people right now, everybody's getting those decks ready. We've got a great spring and summer right ahead of us, so go ahead and take care of that, Craig. I hope we've been able to help you out on that. And we want to help you out again. I'll tell you, one of my favorite parts of the show is when we get to go in the aisles with my friend Danny Watson. Danny, I'll tell you, it just, it really feels good to do projects around the home. I talk a lot of times about how you really get hooked into, the gratification that comes along with it. But nowadays, there's really a lot of reasons to tackle a few of the projects around your home.
And with a little creativity, DIY projects can be a great way to refresh your home and be budget friendly. And obviously, we're all trying to save money these days. And we have a collection, Danny, of over 6,000 projects at homedepot.com/DIY. And we add to this collection all the time, with the upcoming trends, seasonal projects, and holidays. Of course, we have those live stream workshops that you can join right from the comfort of your home.
And they're all free. That's the thing. So many times people try to monetize these kind of things, but this is just one of the arms of Home Depot that'll help you get the project done. I'll tell you, one of the things over the years that I've seen that I just think is just so cool is when you get the kids involved, whether it's the birdhouses or, whatever you might be building like that. That's cool, but it goes way beyond that on some of the common projects. I saw a ceramic tile laying workshop the other day. I know that has to be popular.
Oh, for sure. And some of those tile classes are really some of the most needed. People are always working on kitchens and redoing their floors. But, some of my favorite ones are the how to build a greenhouse project. There's a guide with that. There's a video to show you how to do it. Now, that one's a little more complex, but hey, if you love plants like I do, that's a fun project to take on that's well worth it. And as well as spring cleaning. We have a spring cleaning checklist that will walk you through everything from decluttering to cleaning your windows, appliances, floors, even pressure washing outside and cleaning up that outdoor furniture.
Yeah, I was bumping around the website the other day, homedepot.com/workshops, and you can kind of get lost in there a little bit. What hit me is it was like it was reading my mind. I was thinking of a project here and I'm going through. I go, oh, well, there it is, step by step, materials list, everything you need for that particular project. And the thing that's good about that is it will remind you maybe of a step or of a material or a tool that you may need that you just might not think about on your own. So, boy, you're talking about a ton of information there that's truly designed to help homeowners get the job done and get the job done right.
Yeah, and I think watching that video before you head down to the store is great because then you really know in your mind exactly what you're going to do, and it gives you sort of that shopping list that you can either print off or write down, and that way you have everything that you need to get that project done in one hit. You don't want to have to run back several times because you missed something. And watching that video, you're all set for the day.
Well, one of the things that we realized with our audience is we have a lot of people here on today's Homeowner Radio that will do just about every project that they have come up around the house. But there's still a large group of our folks that listen to the show that are ready to write the check. They want to know what's going on. They want to know how you're going to do it, what you're going to use. But that's one of the things with Home Depot's home service situation and all the professionals there that you really don't have to get your hands dirty to still feel that gratification of the things that you do around the home.
That's right. You can have us install it for you. Of course, we've got all those guys to do that. But don't be afraid to watch one of these videos and tackle some projects this spring yourself.
All right. Our friend Danny Watson helping us out like Home Depot does all the time. Thanks so much, and I hope the spring goes well for you, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
I'm not sure people realize that Home Depot does have a large bank of videos, how-to videos on their site. And with 6,000 spring projects, I think that's what, Danny, 2 more than you have this spring.
That's about right, yeah.
That you need to do. That's right. So you better get to work.
That's right, exactly. No, a lot of help that's available there, and, of course, all the materials you need waiting on you in the aisles of Home Depot.
The sound of you doing is music to our ears. Order on the Home Depot app and get convenient delivery, so you don't have to stop doing when you need something. The Home Depot app, how doers get more done.
Okay, you've been waiting on it, that perfect nugget of information that's going to make your life a lot easier, and that comes from our simple solution with my buddy Joe Truini. Go ahead, Joe, make it easy for us. Something simple. What do you have?
All right, Danny, here's an easy organizer for your garden tools. We're talking about long-handled garden tools, shovels, rakes, that kind of thing. Most people store their tools in the garage or shed by simply standing them up and maybe leaning them in the corner. And there's nothing particularly wrong with that, except when you go to get one tool, you have to move a bunch of other tools out of the way, and sometimes they fall over. So here's the simple solution to that problem. It only requires 3 concrete blocks. All you need to do is this couldn't be any simpler. Just stack up the blocks wherever you want to store your tools. Again, even if you want to do it in the corner of your garage or whatever, just stack these blocks up. And then what you end up with is 2 deep compartments for storing the long-handled tools. So the blocks are heavy enough that you don't have to worry about them falling over. And you just take the tools, turn them upside down, and slip them in. And there's a video I shot that you can see at todayshomeowner.com/simple solutions. You can search for this and see how I stacked them up. Now, in this case, I used 3 blocks because I had enough room overhead to lift them up to drop them back in. If for some reason you have a relatively short ceiling above you, you can use 2 blocks is usually enough. But in any case, this gives you a place you put your tools. They're not going to fall over. They're easily accessible. You can very easily pull one out without the others falling over. And when we shot this video, it ran, and we went out to dinner with some friends not too long ago, and one of the husbands said, I saw that video, and I went home and I immediately did that, and it worked perfectly. So there you go. So got a testimonial on that as well.
That's good. That sounds great. Well, that's one of the things, especially during the spring, you're starting to get out into your storage building or your garage or whatever, and that can be very frustrating. We have all those tools all tangled up.
Right.
First of all, if you have a tool there that you haven't used in the last few years, let's go ahead and donate it. Go ahead and, give it to somebody else that might use it, because chances are if you hadn't used it in 2 or 3 years, you're not going to use it this time. And also, when you're organizing your tools like that, Joe, it really doesn't take long to sharpen those things up a little bit. I just bought a brand new file for that very reason, because we were out moving some sod around and some grass, and I'm going, why am I out here with this dull shovel, when it's so easy to sharpen those things? And, I'll tell you, that's another reason to go to todayshomeowner.com/simple solutions and just put in sharpening tools and maintaining tools. There are so many simple little tricks that you can use to make those tools last a lot longer, work a lot better, and again, like Joe's sharing in this one, just to keep it a little more organized.
Yeah, because, if you're not going to, this time of year, you're going to be using these tools regularly, and you don't want to leave them outside where they can get rusty, and you want to be able to get to them when you need them. And you might not have, I think I might have 4 shovels, 5 shovels, and the ones with handles, the shorter ones have like the hand that you can grip, I hang up in the shed. But the other ones that just have a straight wooden handle, just stand them upside down, stick them in those concrete blocks, and they're ready whenever you're ready to get to work.
Yeah, speaking of shovels with handles, I see in garages all the time people that have just the shovel and no handle. It's broken off.
Snapped
and,
it off. Right.
One day I'm going to fix that shovel. That was a special little shovel for me, and that's never going to happen. Go ahead, and shovels are easy and inexpensive, so just don't worry about that. Hey, one thing we love is to hear from you. If you want to reach out to us with any question or comment that you may have, todayshomeowner.com/podcast, and we continue to get some great favorable reviews. We appreciate that. If you haven't taken the time to tell us what you think, we would love to hear from you. We certainly appreciate that. Hey, you've been listening to today's Homeowner Podcast. I'm Danny Lipford, along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thanks for being with us.